So we talked about last week corporate public policy. So a lot of companies actually preparing or establishing the public policy department, or what you call a public affair department. Uh, Public affair department used to be considered as a secondary department or a periphery department, which may not really dealing with the core issue of the firms, right? Which means that the corporate public affair department mostly dealing with non-commercial issues, which may not really part of your company's money-making business. So in the past, uh, people thought that the job of corporate public affairs are quite minimal. However, it is not, right? The role of corporate public affairs departments are getting bigger, larger, and actually it is influencing a lot of companies' major decision making. So we talked about last week what is public policy and how that public policy actually affect the company's major decision making. And also we defined what's the meaning of public policy, right? The company actually encounter with lots of social, ethical issue by many stakeholders, and companies should position themselves against that many social and ethical issues. So what your company say posture simply stands on that particular say social or ethical issue. So you have to have a firmly establish yourself on particular issues so that you can conveniently or effectively react to that many stakeholders issue. Otherwise, your firm may be in chaos. Again, the job of corporate public affairs departments are dealing with non-commercial issues. However, as I mentioned, you should not take little about the job of the corporate public affairs departments. And we talked about also corporate identity job, the process of CI, right? So before your firms actually positioning your firms against the many social issues, your company tried to unify, try to say, unify your company's image, slogan, logos, or symbols, and so on, or mark, so that by having that unified image, then your firm can also inconveniently deliver what's your firm's message to the public's opinions on many particular ethical or social issues. So we just talk about how say LG or Hanwha, which are one of the major, some of the major Korean conglomerates, actually consolidate, integrate their corporate image and deliver their message in more consolidated and unified to the public. And also, we saw examples from Coca-Cola and IBM and how these firms explicitly manifest their public policy to public. So rather than conducting these firms' public policy reactively by revealing, manifesting their public policy, these firms like Coca-Cola or IBM try to be more active, proactive, or aggressive in delivering and showing their public policy to public. And also we talked about, again, how companies implement their public policy, how company is able to make their public policy in real, right? So these are the process of public policy making. How to create your public policy, 홍보 정책, right? The company cannot satisfy all of the audience equally, cannot make them happy upon any issues. So before you sending the unified message upon many social issues, you have to, of course, set the goals and objective on many issues. And then you have to target what particular audience that you are aiming to, say, deliver your message, right? And then you have to determine your key message for the target audience in very simple and very succinct way. And also you have to determine how you deliver that message to the that particular target audience during what specific time period. So that is actually the process of your public policy creations. And so the point here is that the company prepare their public policy, 공공정책, right? So in that sense, what exactly mean by then the public policy? It can be many issues. We talked about like which area might be your public policy would be required. It can be a kind of issue on the employment privacy, equal opportunity, or your treatment to the employees in the workplace, and also your product safety, sexual harassment. As any issues, non-commercial issue can be the area that you may need to design your public policy. So nobody know what exactly public policy you have to design for what area. So it depends on actually industry type of companies. Especially we talk a lot about like environmental issues, right? A lot of company, of course, they have to secure the safety of the environment, less gas emission, keeping environment safe as a way of their sustainable management. So probably environment-related issue could be the say topic of the public policy. So again, you have to set up the plan for selling, advertising, promoting your product service, but also you have to prepare your policy on lots of public issues, which may include all this one. So that is roughly we talked about last week. Let us then finish how then the what actually public policy departments doing. As I told you, a lot of companies these days have 홍보팀, public policy department, but also according to our textbook, they call this public affairs department. So as I told you, a lot of your senior students are already now working for that public affairs department. So you may wondering what's their job actually in that department and what's the role of the department to the companies. In order to understand the job of the public affairs department and their job, I mean their roles, we have to understand first what is strategic management, right? So strategic management is, as you see, strategic management refers to the overall management process that focuses on positioning the firms relative to the market involvement. So inside within the company, a lot of functional departments actually there in the companies, right? The functional department can be like marketing departments, or R&D department, which is doing like research and development, right? Like developing new product, new service, innovating their process of say operation, whatever the job can be done in that R&D department, and also the operation department, for instance, also doing the major job of the companies. So operation department is actually dealing with like manufacturing or dealing with process of operation of the firms to finalize your product and then deliver that product to the customers. So a lot of, say, also the finance department dealing with cash in, cash out process of the firms. So a lot of functional departments inside the organization, so they are pretty much working as a division of labor. They are pretty much specialized on their specific area. So strategic management is actually determining how each functions are actually working for, say, simply say, as you see here, profit maximization and improving or increasing the firm's value, right? The company should make money, right? So how this functional department actually working together for maximizing, say, value creation or profit maximization. So that's the job of the functional department. And strategic management is simply say, set the plan of actions. So each functional departments are actually operating based on that plan. So strategic management means the company prepare plan of how to operate, right? How to produce, how to provide the product and service, right? So which means that above all, from this department, I think the planning department can be located on top of all other functional departments. Depending on their schedule, plan, all other functional departments are actually working. So the point is that the planning department's job, probably mostly the top management like CEO involved in that planning of the firms. But the point is that the public affairs departments seriously, severely involved and working with that planning department, which means that public policy department, affairs departments are is a very high ranked department within the companies. Their status are pretty much located in a very high corporate hierarchy. That's what we can say. Let's say that like Samsung Electronics or LG Electronics selling, say, or Hyundai selling cars, and LG Samsung sells, say, mobile phone, for instance, or TV and lots of home appliances, right? Have you wondered how these firms are actually selling this product? Right? They don't just produce this product and sell the product to the customers. Their sales and operations are carefully designed, systematically, and their operations are actually going on that carefully designed planned, pre-planned. So that's what strategic management. As you see here, strategic management consists of these 4 parts. Enterprise level of strategy, corporate levels of strategy, and say, what am I? As you see here, business level strategy and functional level strategy. So when, say, Samsung Electronics sells their, say, mobile phones, they're not just selling the mobile phones. Their sales of mobile phones are designed from going through these all different types of strategy. Right? Uh, let's have a look at then first here, enterprise level of strategies. So that levels of strategy is certainly the kind of a plan determined by the very best, the top of the management, especially like the CEO sometimes, or the board of directors, or the chairman determine that enterprise level of strategy, right? So let's say that what specifically that enterprise level strategy here? At that higher ranked management, they don't set the plan of selling how many, say, mobile phone they are going to sell, or where they are going to sell their mobile phone. Let's use the example of Samsung Electronics, for instance. The enterprise level of strategy, rather than defining or suggesting, say, how many mobile phone they are selling, they decide these types of plan by raising these types of questions. They suggest their own definition upon these types of, say, questions. And that is what enterprise level of strategy. So what is the role of the organization in the society, right? Again, that is actually what the top management determine in their decision making, right? And that question, where I think I prepared some slide here. So yeah, I mean, this is actually the how the strategy is cascading down to lower levels here. So the operator at the bottom actually operating the firms or their job for the companies. Right? They say, it is very hard to determine. Okay. Enterprise level of strategy simply means that the company determined what will be the vision or future of the firms, what the company should be in the future. Right? So that is actually the decision making that is made by the top level of the companies. And that strategy delivered to, say, next higher level of top management, like directors, for instance. Upon the decision making made by the top, they are like next level of higher manager determined more specify their decision into more like practical level. And that decision now delivered down to the business level strategy, how then each business unit functions here, operating the firms to realize what the top management have mentioned or defined. So this is pretty much decision making by mid-level manager. And finally, if the mid-level manager determines in order to meet the requirement of the top management here, this or that would be the job or our plan in the company. And if that decision is made and it delivered down to the operator here, so they are now working in real production. So the point is that the company's strategy not really made by the operator at the bottom. It is defined top first, and it is cascading down to mid-level manager, lower level managers and operators, and then very broad, say, strategy or plan is much more specified as they moving down to the lower level managers. So the point here is that all of this strategy making process are directly dealing with the company's commercial area in terms of, say, how many product items they are selling or where they are going to sell their product, in what scale they are going to sell or produce. But the point is that public affairs job now used to be kind of a department, nothing to do with this strategic planning department, but the public affairs department's job is seriously involved in that job of the strategy making here. I mean, let us look at here example of Johnson & Johnson, for instance. What is Johnson & Johnson? What company is it? Johnson & Johnson is Johnson & Johnson is actually making lots of, say, pharmaceutical products or kind of a product like soap, detergent, or drug, and many other things. That is kind of a product that we use every day. So you can buy the Johnson & Johnson product, like mostly pharmaceutical, the drugstore and so on. So we talked about the entrepreneur level of strategy, right? Here. The enterprise level of strategy, or the enterprise level strategy means kind of decision making of the tops about the vision, a goal, or say mission statement of the firms, right? So these are mostly defined by the very top management. And actually, Johnson & Johnson case, these are what really made by the enterprise, made by the Johnson & Johnson as this firm's enterprise level of strategy. So these are the example of enterprise level of strategies. Right? Mostly at the top of the management, they determine their, say, credo, value, and action, right? So if you read lots of statement here, this is what enterprise level of strategy. So the very top management or the chairman, like board of direct members, determine kind of the big vision or big direction of the firms like this. So this is how Johnson & Johnson tried to be in society and for the stakeholder, shareholder, and so on. This is English version of their enterprise level of strategy. But the thing is that if you read the statement here, a lot of the statements made by the top management is not really something to do with profit maximization, increasing market share, make happy the stakeholders, shareholders, or highest return to their, say, shareholders, or increasing the stock price. It's pretty much about what the company tried to be in the society, right? If you read carefully of the statement here. So that's what I call a enterprise level of strategy. These are in English. I mean, if you visit like Johnson & Johnson, again, Johnson & Johnson shows the company's what you call a core value, like the enterprise level of strategy. Right? So again, a lot of companies set up strategy in a way of, say, specifically focusing on shareholders' return. like bring back a lot of profit dividends to the shareholders. But Johnson and Johnson case, they never talked about like maximizing, say, shareholder return, but instead they determine like sharing their benefit with the society and so on. So that is what enterprise level of the strategy. So the point here is that when the top management, especially the CEO, determine this enterprise level of a strategy or setting these types of statement or strategy, the public affairs department is actually playing the key roles. Again, back to the statement at the beginning. Companies' planning process is the job of the planning departments. Probably the most smartest employees or intelligent employees may be working in that planning department who are dealing with this kind of a strategy making. But this day, more and more, the public affairs department people get involved in that, say, strategy making job, like planning department's job. So pretty much about like collaboration this day between planning department and public affairs department to determine a big grand scheme of the companies as the company's goal and objective. So this is what Johnson & Johnson's goal of the firm, right? Objective of the firm, right? What I call enterprise level of strategy. If you look at more specifically, these are the company's strategy from the bigger picture, right? So their strategy, their objective or missions are like this one. Be responsible to our doctors, nurses, patients, and mother, fathers, and for those who use, all of the people who use our product and service. So that is actually the company's, again, mission, what the company called a credo, and what we call enterprise level of strategy, right? So try to be responsible to everybody, especially doctor, nurse, patient, parents, and so on. And yeah, and this is also the second objective of the firms. Be responsible to our employees, men, women, and somebody who work with us throughout the world. So that's the second, say, enterprise level of the strategy, like credo or mission or objective of the firms. And this is also the third objective of the firms, right here. Be responsible to our community in which we live, work, and also to the world community as well. So that's the third, say, objective of the firm, Johnson & Johnson. And this is last objective of the firms. Be responsible to their stockholders. Certainly, stockholders are important stakeholders, so giving the highest return to the stock shareholder is certainly the company's major objective. But if you see this major, say, objective of the firms, value or how they will conduct their business, it is not really pretty much about, say, customer happiness, maximum return, financial return to shareholders, stockholders, or increasing the market share. It is all about trying to be responsible to everybody. So the point here is that, so what I'm trying to say is that at the beginning, the starting point of your strategy is not really directly dealing with your, say, product, service in terms of, say, price, caring customers, how to distribute them, which market to enter, and so on. So at the beginning, the starting point of strategy making is not really directly handle that question, but as you see from the Johnson & Johnson case, the beginning stage of the strategy making is all about like being responsible, right? Being responsible to all of the shareholders around the companies. Right? So that's the strategy of the top management of running the Johnson & Johnson by those four, say, objective and mission statements. And based on that four message statement of Johnson & Johnson, the next higher level of management try to be more, prepare more realistic, say, plan for the company's operation. Again, like corporate level strategy is kind of answering what business that we are or which business like where to enter for doing your business, how to enter. I mean, corporate level strategy is simply say determining where you do the business, right? Where you do the business means which market you are going to compete with. Right? Are you going to compete your product and service with, say, in your domestic market or foreign market, and where? So corporate level strategy is actually determining your, say, location of competition, for instance. Also, in what scale you are going to compete, for instance. Are you going to compete with your competitors in say, a larger scale by acquiring other companies, or you are going to compete with the competitors by, say, make alliance with your, say, supplier, buyer, or whatever, and so on. So corporate level strategy is pretty much about how you are going to compete with your competitors. So the point here is that real action of the firms not determined arbitrarily, that real action of the firm should be built based on that, say, enterprise level of strategy. As we see from the Johnson & Johnson case, we saw here four levels of four different kinds of enterprise level of the strategy, what we call a goal or mission. So your corporate level strategy is based on the ideas suggested here, right? So which means that your corporate strategy is highly related to your enterprise level strategy. So the point here is that again, the public affairs departments highly involved in that decision making here. Like Johnson & Johnson case, for objective and missions designed not really only by the planning department, but also by together with the public affairs departments of the companies. Yeah, see, this is what enterprise level strategy, like code of ethics, code of conduct, mission statement, value statements, creeds, vision statements. So deciding all these statements are what you call an enterprise level strategy. Kind of a statement that you have seen from the Johnson & Johnson. That's what you call a enterprise level strategy. Right. So the next step is based on the statement here, the manager determine the real, say, series of actions to materialize what you have, say, defined here as your company's code of ethics, mission statement, code of conduct, and so on. So again, I think the explanation might be a little bit complicated, but the point here is the major direction of the firm's strategy plan determined in that way. The top determines something, it get down to the next higher level of management, and it get down to the mid-level management, and it get down to the operator. And the point is that the public affairs departments working closely with determining, say, enterprise level of strategy. The point here is that whatever the company's plan or whatever actions the company made, it certainly results in some, say, performance. You may materialize what you planned at the beginning. You may achieve your goal, or you may not achieve your goal. So the point here is that your plan should be measured later. So when company is actually operating something and it ends up with some, say, performance outcome, here it ends up with outcome, and your job is whether that outcome is actually satisfy that you have designed at the beginning, right? So you at the beginning design, say, we are going to achieve that outcome. At the end, you have to check whether you really achieve that particular outcome. So that's what I call controlling. So controlling means that you compare your real outcome with your the plan at the beginning, right? So if your real outcome is more than your plan, then that's what I call your performance is good. You made a outperformance. And if your outcomes are below than you are initially designed, then certainly your company's performance is bad. So I think that the most important thing of the firm is that you have to keep track what you achieve at the end. So that's what I call auditing, right? What you call here instead, rather than just auditing, we are just talking about social auditing. Social auditing means, as you see, just look at go back to the Johnson & Johnson case, for instance. Johnson & Johnson suggested four major statements, objective and mission statement that we just seen at the beginning. We have to check at the end of the, say, calendar accounting year whether Johnson & Johnson really realized what they plan as their mission or goal. Right. But the point here is that how are you going to compare your performance and your initial plan? That's the point. Especially if that activity or if that performance are related to your, say, social performance, then how can you then compare your social performance with your, say, initial plan? If say if your firms make say lots of profit, for instance, then you can say that our performance is good. But what about like uh, how can you measure your firm's say a social performance? Like if you like go back to our say Johnson and Johnson case, your objective was there like satisfying, be responsible to everybody, be responsible to all of the stakeholders. So that was your objective. So you should be responsible for that group of people. But at the end, how are you going to check whether Johnson and Johnson really satisfy the group of people and really be responsible for that uh, many stakeholders? So that is the questions, right? So these are typically actually very typical method that the company use to measure the firm's performance, as you see here. I think you better to keep this in your mind because it is kind of a table that keep referring to you whenever you study the business. So when you measure your performance of the firms, you have to look at here how your firm satisfy, of course, your shareholders, the owners, and customers. How your firm satisfy your customers, buyer, what do you call, or how your firm satisfy your employees, your say people, your staff of the firms, and how you satisfy your community here. So when you check your company's performance, you have to check the performance on all these 4 different areas by using this measurement index here, right? Like how can you then measure, say for instance, whether or not your firm satisfy your say shareholders by looking at your money return to shareholders. How you measure you really satisfy your customers? Simply measuring or surveying your customer satisfaction and your quality of service. And employee as well, by looking at the employee's commitment or employees, especially the productivity, you can measure directly or indirectly the employees, say, level of satisfaction, how much you actually satisfy their demand. And community as well, what kind of image, right? What image the public has to your firm. So by surveying their ideas also from the public, you can see your community performance. So these are actually area that you have to look at for your firm's performance measurement. However, every industry does use a lot different, say, performance measurement. There is not really no standard measurement performance. So that is the problem. So we never know whether your company really outperform or just maybe less perform as you plan at the beginning. So that's why globally a lot of companies felt that they need to set up kind of performance measurement standard. So that's what we call a global reporting initiative, like about 1,500 companies all together and meet each other and try to set standards of performance measurement, especially in social performance. So by satisfying that agreed performance standard, say item, you can say that these firms satisfy social performance or not. Right. As we see, these are GRI, like Global Reporting Initiative. So compared to a previous one of the performance measurement, these measurements are much more look complicated, right? So compared to the previous slide, we see a lot more items to check for your performance measurement. You have to look at not only your society, your employees, your working management practice, also you have to check a particular firm's performance in, say, in the company's environment, as well as how much the company is doing in particular economic condition. So compared to previous one, a lot more item to check, right, for measuring the performance. So simply means that because of the corporate social responsibility and higher demand of stakeholders, nowadays measuring the company's performance are getting more complicated and sometimes very tough to make the like standard level to satisfy all stakeholders. So which means that managing the company is now getting much more tougher and so on. So after the break, we are going to talk about briefly then what public affairs departments are really doing in the companies. I have said that the public affairs departments work closely with planning department. But other than working with the planning department in deciding the enterprise level of strategy, the public affairs department also prepare some other specific plan, a very unique plan for the department, which are as we see, crisis management and issues management. Crisis management and issues management. We saw the earthquake in Japan a few days ago. So what happened because of that earthquake was like like some of the Japanese, say, electronic companies had to stop their operation because of that sudden crisis, because of that sudden event. Right. If you remember, like a few years ago, the Malaysian Air just simply disappeared, right, in Pacific Ocean. I don't know where exactly. Suddenly disappeared because of that sudden event or crisis. The company fell into chaos. So the company fell into trouble, not only by the problem of the company's product service themselves, but also by some other kind of environmental event, crisis, and so on that the company cannot help stopping. Right? So the point is, when unexpected events happen, how the company responds to that unexpected event. So that is actually the area of crisis management or issues management. Again, this is the management of non-commercial part. However, very important, right? So that job is now done by mostly public affairs department. So we are going to talk more about it, and let's do that on after the break. It comes from some areas, right? It comes from the kind of natural environment, right? Because of the happening from natural environment or simply social environment, the expectation from your stakeholders and your real job may have a wider gap again. So because of that big gap, if kind of the area that you may have like big gap from between what you actually do and what real society or stakeholders expect. That is what I call issues, right? So the point here is that the public affairs department should prepare what kind of issues will be likely emerge or occurring in the very near future. So you have to prepare or think about a lot of a scenario of likely issues that affect your companies. So you have to prepare when that particular issues come to your firm. How are you going to react? So that kind of a preparation is what I call issues management. While the so issues management is you prepare something upon something will likely to happening in the very near future. It may be occurring or may not be occurring, but it doesn't matter. You have to prepare anyway. So that is the issues management. While the crisis management is kind of a real happening in very tragic way, like say your operation line now, say under big fire, for instance, and killing, say, 100 your employees. That is crisis. Or you are from, say, attack, as I mentioned earlier, like by terrorists destroying your facilities. That is crisis. And how you are going to react to that crisis. Upon that crisis, there might be a lot of, say, worries or kind of a mood from the stakeholders, and you have to explain to that stakeholders. Otherwise, there might be some misunderstanding between your firms and the stakeholders, right? So issues management and stakeholder management, it is about like communication between your firms and stakeholders, society upon likelihood of particular events, mostly the negative events, or happening, a tragedy or accident, whatever. So let's talk about issues management first. I will show you some example of issues management that global company really now doing. Let's talk about here first, like, these are the example of the real issue management case from the real companies. Like Daimler Chrysler. What is Daimler Chrysler? It's a car company, no longer I think exists. The combined company between Daimler and, in Germany and Chrysler USA. So two car companies combined, creating Daimler Chrysler. Of course, it is now again separated. But Daimler Chrysler, the car companies, used to have a very good issue management, right? Very good case, which benchmarked, copied a lot by other car companies, and also reflected in lots of policy making. Like, say, if you are the owner of the, say, car company, what issue may be critical to your business? What issues? Just forget about quality of your car. Just forget about the quality of your service. Forget about anything that directly related to your cars. what other social issue may be affecting your company's operation. If you are the CEO or if you are the head of the public affairs department, you have to figure out what issue might be the priority to you as a leader of the car companies. Daimler Chrysler case, they have checked a lot of issues that may potentially affect the firms, but they choose child passenger safety. Quite making sense, right? Child passenger safety. We know that the car accidents, the number of car accidents getting increasing more and more every year. Especially in that accidents, I think the casualties and the injured childs are increasing, right? So, because children don't know how to act on that car accident, don't know how to protect themselves in that car accident. So that event may be the issue to the Daimler Chrysler. That's how the Daimler Chrysler, the top management judge. So that child care may be the issue. Who knows how, they never know how that issue may affect the firms, but the company realized that that child protection issue, the company should prepare. So that's why the Daimler Chrysler developed a program, what they call a free child seat inspection program. So even though the car already set up, make a very good car safety system for children, other than that, the company also provides a free inspection for the child seat inspection. Of course, it costs money for the firms, right? It's just providing free inspection would be a very costly job. However, the company provide that service, free service to Daimler Chrysler cars and also any other cars manufactured by any other companies. So that is the example of issue management. The company thought that child care safety, safety issue may be emerging. So the company prepared something before that issue would be the real issue in the society. So the name of the campaign, according to them, was Fit for a Kid. So a very popular campaign a few years ago. So that is the issue management of the firms. So very expensive to carry on that policy. But the question is that policy really help the company or doesn't help the company at all? According to the report, by providing that free child seat inspection campaign, the company, the Daimler Chrysler, was able to secure more, say, loyalty customers, especially from the parent side. So at the end, that campaign helped the firms financially. In the short term, the company may spend money, budget, but in the longer term, the company get benefit. So that is example of the issue management of these car companies. Also, the McDonald's also shows a very good example of issue management of the firms. We know what the company is doing, right? They provide fast food, lots of hamburgers, different types of like fast food and so on. But from the top management of the McDonald's perspective, they thought that the animal welfare, and this is pretty much animal welfare, may be a very critical social issue in the near future, right? what is animal welfare? Actually, we know that the McDonald's does not run or does not own, raise, or transport animal. Right? They just buy meat from the supplier. So animal welfare is nothing to do with the company's McDonald's business. However, the company believed that when this issue become emergent as a social issue, the McDonald's would get attacked seriously, even though the company nothing to do with the animal welfare. So what McDonald's did was that they announced like public campaign saying we only make a social like a commercial contract with a very good supplier. Here the supplier means the supplier who provide the meat, right? Cow, beef, or whatever. So the company announced we only make the contract with a good supplier. So here good supplier means like what is good supplier? The supplier, like a slaughter supplier, for instance, like killing, say, 1,000, say, cows brutally may not be a good supplier, right? So the company check the supplier's supplying system, right? How they provide the meat to McDonald's. If the supplier provide meat unethical way by, say, slaughtering, say, thousands cows or pigs or whatever animals, then the McDonald's don't contract with that kind of suppliers. And so a lot of very popular issue management case we can find. Like also, one of the classic example is like DuPont, which is, what is DuPont? A multinational companies, actually very highly diversified companies providing 1,000 different kinds of product, but mostly the DuPont's major business is food production, right? So again, think of yourself as the CEO of DuPont, then what issue may be very critical to your operation if you are dealing with food? I think this is like issue management award. I mean so DuPont case here, what they did was they concerned that food security may be the major issues in food business. What is food security? What is food security? Supply and demand, right? Food security means that the a company should have a very stable supply of food supply, simply say. Unless say a particular country didn't get a stable supply of food, then people there may suffer from hunger, right? Starvation and so on. So food company, DuPont as a food company, they concern about food security. Again, food security is nothing to do with the business of DuPont. What they do is just producing a lot of high quality food, that's it. However, the company thought that this issue would be critical to their business. And if the company do something on that food security, especially for developing countries or less developed country, then the DuPont believe that the company may have a very good public image, which may also increase the reputation, sales, and so on. So, dealing with food security, especially for the country who suffer from a huge, massive starvation, and so on. So, as an issue management of DuPont, what DuPont did was that they prepare a huge budget, like 10 billion. 10 billion means like 10조, right? By securing 10조, $10 billion as their R&D budget. So using that money for food security, mostly simply helping underdeveloped countries to feed them well. So probably that may be the job of the government of that particular country, but DuPont actually did that job for a poor, less developed country. And also the DuPont provided a kind of a unlimited, sometimes a very free education program. Like countries with a starvation, a lot of young people should go outside to get food instead of receiving the education. So as a providing a stability of food security, the DuPont also provided education as well, mostly for developing countries and underdeveloped countries. So that is issue management. So the point is that if you are the global company's owner, you have to point out what will be the key issues to your companies that may affect your companies. If you take the advantage of that issue well, then certainly you may have higher, better, improved reputation, which turned out to be your more market share, more customer, and so on. So that's the point. That's the point of the issue management. Okay, that time's up. So we are on Thursday. We are more talk about then what specific issues are actually more emergent this day. And when you say issue management, then what specific steps actually company take to prepare their issue management, right? Also, in doing so, what is the role and job of the public affairs department? So that's we are going to talk about on Friday. Okay.